It's funny how sometimes the most ancient texts can hide ideas that feel, well, shockingly modern. We tend to think of the Old Testament as the story of one specific people, right? But what if I told you that tucked away inside its poetry, there was this radical vision of a global family? A world where belonging wasn't about your background or where you were from, but something else entirely. Okay, let's dive into this surprising welcome we find in the book of Psalms.
Right at the heart of this whole thing is a huge theological puzzle that ancient Israel was really wrestling with. I mean, think about it. If God chose one nation, Israel, for this special, unique relationship, how can that same God also be the sovereign king and creator of every single person on the planet? It just feels like a massive contradiction.
And this wasn't some minor detail they could just brush aside. Scholars see this tension as a core theme running through everything. See, if you grant other nations total equality, it kind of seems to cancel out Israel's special calling. But if you deny them any future place with God, then you're questioning God's universal power. So they needed a way to hold both of these truths together, and that required a truly radical answer.
So let's just lay it out nice and clear. On one hand, you have this foundational belief in Israel's special election, this unique covenant with God. But on the other hand, you have this equally strong belief in God's universal kingship over everyone everywhere. How in the world do you make those two ideas work together? Now, you might expect the answer to be, military conquest or some huge missionary campaign to convert everybody. But the texts point somewhere totally different, somewhere kind of hidden in plain sight, right inside the songbook of ancient Israel, the Book of Psalms, and specifically in a little group of poems called the Zion hymns.
Yeah, these Zion hymns, they're our key. They're all about Zion, which is the mountain of God in Jerusalem, as the place where God lives. But here's the twist. They don't see it as a place just for Israel. No, they imagine it as a destination for the entire world. And this brings us to a really important idea, and it's captured by this fantastic German term, Volkerwallfahrt. It basically means the pilgrimage of the peoples. And notice the direction of travel. This isn't about Israel going out to the nations. It's a vision of the nations themselves being drawn in, making the journey to Zion to meet and worship the God of Israel.
A few different psalms talk about this pilgrimage idea, but there's one of them, Psalm 87, that just grabs this concept and pushes it to a conclusion so radical, it has just floored readers for centuries. It gives us the ultimate answer to that divine paradox we started with.
All right, get ready for the big reveal here, because Psalm 87 doesn't just invite foreigners for a visit. It makes this absolutely shocking claim about their very identity. It recasts Zion not just as a destination, but as a mother to all nations.
And just so you know how mind-blowing this is, the famous scholar Horman Gunkel once described this psalm as audacious to the point of incomprehensibility. I mean, he was basically saying he could hardly even wrap his head around how an ancient Israelite poet could come up with an idea this wild. Let's just look at the text itself. This is God speaking, and he says he's going to count these foreign nations among the people who know him. And then comes the line that changes everything, repeated 3 times just to make sure we get it. About each of these foreign peoples it is said, this one was born there. Wow. It's God himself who records this on the official citizenship register. Now, let's just pause and look at who is being welcomed. This list of nations is what makes this so incredible. We've got Egypt and Babylon, the great evil empires, the historical oppressors. We've got Philistia and Tyre, those annoying constant enemies next door. And then Ethiopia, which to them represented the farthest, most alien edge of the known world. This is not a random list of friendly neighbors. It's basically a who's who of Israel's enemies, all being brought into the family. So this is the key, the absolute heart of the matter. That phrase, born there, it's all about citizenship. It's about identity. The psalmist isn't just saying, hey, foreigners are welcome to come visit. It's saying God literally re-registers these former enemies, giving them a brand new identity as native-born citizens of Zion. They belong. Belonging is now a matter of divine declaration, not where you came from. Okay, this whole vision is just breathtaking. But it immediately makes you ask a very practical question. How? How is this supposed to happen? What's the mechanism for this incredible worldwide family reunion? I mean, our first thought from our modern perspective is probably missionary work, right? Does this whole vision depend on the people of Israel going out into the world to persuade and convert everybody?
And the answer from the sources is emphatic. It is a clear, resounding no. This is not a human-led project. In this vision, the responsibility for making this happen rests entirely and only on God.
The process, as it's laid out, is all divine. First, God acts. God is the one and only missionary here. Second, God draws them in. It is God's acts of justice and salvation in the world that work like a magnet, attracting the nations and pulling them towards Zion. And third, Israel's role? To be a model. Their job isn't to go out and convert, but to live out the kind of life God wants for all humanity, so that when the nations show up, they can see God's plan in action.
So let's just step back for a second and look at the stunning final picture this whole thing paints. This isn't just some small adjustment to their theology. This is a complete reimagining of the world order, of the entire destiny of humanity.
And this is what scholars call an eschatological vision. It's a bit of a fancy word, but it just means it's about the end times, not in a scary, apocalyptic way, but as a hope for the future. It's the ultimate goal that all of history is slowly moving towards, a completely transformed world. The source material gives us this powerful metaphor to help us grasp it, and its brilliance. This vision of Zion, with all the nations gathering together in unity, is the exact opposite of the story of the Tower of Babel.
And this just lays out the difference perfectly. The Tower of Babel, that was a human project. It was born from pride, trying to force this one-size-fits-all unity. And what was the result? Confusion, division, and everyone being scattered. But Mount Zion, in this vision, is a divine project. It's not about forcing everyone to be the same. It's about a gracious welcome that leads to real, genuine unity, a true world family. Ultimately, what the Psalms are sketching out is a world where your place isn't decided by your family tree, your history, or anything you've accomplished. It's a world where belonging is a gift, where even the worst of your enemies can be declared born there and welcomed home.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In our own world, which is so often broken apart by division, what if we've got it all wrong about what true unity looks like? What if the ultimate form of belonging isn't about erasing all our differences and making everyone the same, but about everyone in all their beautiful diversity finally finding a common home?